I was at your boy Rico from StreetScores, and man, oh man, if you didn't see Dan Quinn's press conference today, you need to see it. We're going to dive into a lot of the main things he said from it, especially him telling the Bucs head coach, F you. We're going to dive into what he meant by that, like where it came from. Also, he talked about our offensive line strategy. He's talking about the entire mentality of this team going into this Eagles matchup for the NFC Championship game. Also, I'm going to give y'all the injury report from today's Commanders practice, and the Eagles starting quarterback Jalen Hurts and elite cornerback Quinn Mitchell are both hurt, and people are on watch to see if they'll even be able to play in this game. And we're going to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, the trivia question for today, and I'll give you the answer at the end of the video, is with 77 catches, who was the Commanders' leading receiver in 2022? Oh man, that's so easy, man. Either way though, this video is also sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And before we get into everything, make sure you still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Of course, I will be up live streaming this upcoming Eagles matchup at the NFC Championship, all 4 quarters, play-by-play analysis and everything. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start with Dan Quinn's mentality, and man, he was spitting today. He was dropping some bars today, man. Let's go ahead and dive into the quotes. I'm pretty sure the reason that most people click this video is for this first quote that we're going to talk about. That's why I want to go ahead and talk about it first. It's the reason most of y'all are probably here. He was asked about being an underdog, and his quote was, "Did we feel dismissed or put off? Yeah. I think that happened in the opening game," which he's talking about week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, regular season game all the way back in September. He said, "Hey man, hang in there. It's going to be a long time." That's what Todd Bowles apparently told Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn said, "I was like, F you. That's not how it's about to go down." Basically, he's saying that we're not going to accept that. We're not going to accept just because this is our first year and we have so much change, so much roster turnover, coaching staff turnover, front office turnover, entire franchise turnover, that we're just going to accept this as just like a rebuilding year, and that just is what it is. That week 1 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is indicative of how our entire season's going to go. And I mean, if you want to hear the exact quote, here's Dan Quinn himself.
We just don't let the outside narrative kind of drive it. And internally, we've got a lot of expectations about how we can play and what we do, but we never, went too far outside of things. Did we feel dismissed or put off? Yeah, of course some. I think that happened in the opening game. I felt dismissive. Hey man, hang in there. It's going to be a long time. I was like, hey, F you, that's not how it's going to go down. And I was upset, but it wasn't disrespect. It was dismissiveness. And I felt some kind of way, but it didn't motivate me more to say that's how they think of us. It wasn't disrespect. It was we're going to be a lot better than what we just showed today, and eventually we'll show that.
And I love that, man. If you don't love Dan Quinn for that, I don't know what would make you get on his side, man. I know a lot of us, we questioned the Dan Quinn hiring back in the offseason, but it was the perfect hire for this team. The literal perfect, best case scenario hire for what's going on right now. And the mentality that he brings to this team is insane. It's amazing. You can tell they really feed off of his personality, his energy, and exactly the type of attitude that we want to go into every game with, especially in these situations, high stakes situations, win or go home type of things. And I just love the fact that he was even willing to be that transparent about the whole situation and literally told us how he told Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles, F you. Like, y'all got me messed up. Like, that's not the type of mentality we're going to have with this team. We're not just going to accept mediocrity or just losing in general just because this is our first time running it with this team, with this franchise, and this franchise is used to losing. No, we're not coming here to accept that. I'm coming here off of being used to winning, growing to accustomed to winning and being competitive every year. We're not going to accept that just because Washington hasn't necessarily been doing that, or the fact that everything is so new. People are expecting us to kind of, have to take a while to get the rust off. And yeah, I mean, we did. It took us a minute for like Jaden Daniels to get going, for Cliff Kingsbury to figure out exactly how he wanted to call plays, Joe Wood Jr. with the defense, a lot of our players. It took us a while to finally learn what our identity was. But once we got it, it was as fully established, and nobody's been able to stop us for the last 7-8 games. And so also I want to point out the fact that y'all see that backdrop in that clip right there as well. NFC Championship backdrop. Since when, man? Since when? Also, Dan Quinn said a few more things like, quote, "It's not a prove it or underdog story. It's about how we get down," unquote. I love that mentality as well, man. All of this anywhere, anytime, anybody stuff, all of this recalibration, not a rebuild stuff, all of that is coming from Dan Quinn, and these players love it. They're feeding off of it, and you're seeing the fruits of all of that from how we're producing right now, especially in these playoffs, man. We look like the best team in the playoffs right now. I don't exactly understand why some people think we're the underdogs to the Eagles, but either way, a lot of people feel that way. And he was even asked about that. He said, quote, "It's not a prove it to everybody else or an underdog story. It's not even a 7-game series. We got to play our best at Sunday at 3 o'clock, and it's that simple, man." I mean, he just dropping bar after bar. He also said, quote, "These runs are built on fundamentals, execution, and finishing, not new scheme," unquote. I love that too. That's another bar. Like, we're not about to sit here and overthink things and switch things up. We've been winning like this, and this has worked very well for us. We know our formula. We know our identity, and we just know that we have to go out there and do it. It's that simple. Just because we're going against a tough opponent in the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia, we do not have to overthink things and try to think too far ahead and change things up from what we're doing. We're not going to try to fix what's not broken. This has been working for us. We've been great at this. We're going to continue to do that and dare the Eagles to stop us from doing that. I love that mentality as well. Also, he said, quote, "Our team's got a lot of joyful intensity. It's not rare to see guys attacking the S word out of somebody or something and seeing huge joyful smiles on their faces," unquote. Basically saying this team is full of a bunch of madmen, and it's led by a head coach who's also a madman himself. But these guys love to hit. After they hit somebody real hard, you can just see the smile on their faces. Even Jaden Daniels, when he gets hit, he gets up with a smile on his face. These guys love the intensity of the sport. Playoff football seems to be their favorite type of football. The environment, the pressure, everything that comes with playoff high stakes football, these guys seem to feed off of it. If anything, they're playing their best when we need the best from them, because this is their favorite environment. These are their favorite factors and things like that. I absolutely love this team, and Dan Quinn is basically acknowledging the fact that, hey man, we got a bunch of guys with their screws loose, and that's exactly what you need for these sorts of situations. Also, Dan Quinn said that you can't get bored with doing the right things over and over again. I feel like that's a big thing. He talked about specifically with Saquon Barkley, because he can explode for a big play at any moment. Remember the first time we played the Eagles, we had Saquon Barkley and that Eagles offense pretty much on lockdown until the fourth quarter, and I feel like that is a very important message for this team. I'm happy that not only he said that out loud for us to know, but I'm pretty sure he's been preaching that to the players all week, probably all since we lost to the Eagles the first time, since middle of the regular season. He's probably been preaching that, like, you cannot get bored with success and doing things the right way. You have to be able to do it over and over again, no matter how good things are going. Make sure you stay on your P's and Q's. I love that mentality. Then also Dan Quinn spoke on the offensive line strategy coming up, because Samuel Cosmi has a torn ACL, so you know he's at least done for this playoff run, the Super Bowl run that we're about to go on. And you also gotta know that we're about to go against those Georgia dogs, most notably Jalen Carter. And I love Jordan Davis, and thank you for the championship and everything, but he doesn't have much stamina to play a lot. Like, he plays very sparingly, but Jalen Carter stays on the field a lot, so he has to be game planned against. You got to game plan against Jordan Davis as well, but you really truly have to figure out a way to keep Jalen Carter out of the game to have a chance of winning. And honestly, it doesn't matter who we decide to play on the offensive line, we're going to have to shift the O-line towards doubling Jalen Carter as much as possible anyway. But either way, Dan Quinn was asked about the offensive line situation. He said that there's been a lot of thought about how to replace Samuel Cosmi at right guard, and the next 3 days will play a big role in that. So be on the lookout. You know, maybe if we get some information from what's going on in practice, I'll share that with y'all. Of course, strategically, it makes no sense for them to give us any clue as to what's going on, so we're more than likely not going to get any information there. But if they do, anything comes out, I got y'all. But the way Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have had this thing going since they've been hired here, no leaks at all. Things just happen out of nowhere, and we're like, how do we not even hear about this potentially about to happen? And so I highly doubt we get anything, but again, just in case, if we do, I got y'all. And then Dan Quinn also said that there's been a lot of thought about specifically putting their best 5 offensive linemen on the field following Samuel Cosmi's season-ending injury. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, for me, I feel like there are 3 main choices we have here as far as combinations for the offensive line when we go out there versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Option number 1 is arguably the least talented option, but also it's the if it ain't broke, don't fix it option. Because when Samuel Cosmi got hurt against the Detroit Lions, usual tackle, since he's been here, that's all I've really seen him do, except for maybe like sometimes in the offseason or preseason. Usual tackle Trent Scott came in and played the rest of the game at right guard. Now, granted, the Lions D-line is not the Eagles defensive line, but Trent Scott had the best game I've ever seen him play by far since coming to Washington, filling in at right guard. He didn't allow a single pressure. Maybe he's better at guard than he is tackle, because to me, he's almost unplayable at tackle. But he was really good at guard against the Detroit Lions. So if you don't want to mess up the chemistry that they have going on from last game where the offensive line was really good at run blocking and pass protecting for Jaden Daniels, just keep all of the other O-line spots the exact same from the original starters. Keep the same 4, and then you just put Trent Scott in at Samuel Cosmi spot again like you did after Cosmi got hurt against the Detroit Lions. And then have Tyler Biadasz help towards whoever's blocking Jalen Carter on every play. If Jalen Carter's on the right side, have Tyler Biadasz lean that way to help out Trent Scott. If Jalen Carter's on the left side, have Tyler Biadasz lean towards the left side to help out Nick Allegretti. Whatever we got to do, we have to shut down Jalen Carter. And then you have option 2. And this is the option that Dan Quinn was alluding to in his press conference that I just told y'all about a couple of minutes ago, which is the catalyst for this entire discussion about the different options that we have as far as figuring out this offensive line situation with Samuel Cosmi hurt. He said, considering putting together the most talented combination of 5 guys we have out there on the O-line, it would be, it would disrupt the chemistry that we have on the offensive line right now quite a bit, but we would have the most talented combination of offensive linemen possible that we could put out there if you just leave Brandon Coleman at left tackle, leave Nick Allegretti at left guard, and leave Tyler Biadasz at center. That's untouched. Business as usual there. But then on the right side, we would be changing 2 offensive line positions. Even though there's only 1 player hurt, there will be 2 changes, because you'd be taking Andrew Wiley from right tackle and then moving him down to right guard, and then plugging in Cornelius Lucas, your backup tackle, your swing tackle, in at the right tackle spot to start the game. And I remember a lot of Washington fans wanted Cornelius Lucas to start over Andrew Wiley in the first place with no injuries involved, no changes at all, just plug Cornelius Lucas in there instead of Andrew Wiley. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably favor this option, especially since Dan Quinn even just mentioned it in his press conference earlier today. It seems like maybe if you want to just go with your 5 most talented guys, even if you're sacrificing chemistry for talent. And we'll see how that goes if they decide to go that route. And then you have the third and last option that I could think of. And this is obviously the least likely option that they're going to go with. But you could leave your normal 4 starting offensive linemen untouched. Your left tackle, left guard, center, and your right tackle. And then instead of putting in Trent Scott to replace Samuel Cosmi, you can put in somebody that actually naturally plays the guard position the majority of their career. Again, Trent Scott has mostly been trying to figure out tackle since he's joined Washington. So he's not really naturally a guard by his history of what I've noticed of him playing since he joined the Washington Commanders. Even though he looked really good against the Lions at guard, but if you want to overthink it just a little bit, if you want to overthink the whole situation, which is why I feel like this is the least likely option, then you could throw Chris Paul or Michael Dieter in there to start at right guard. But Dieter struggled mightily at center the 2 games this year that Tyler Biadasz had to miss, and I don't believe Chris Paul has played a single regular season snap this entire year. Postseason, regular season, nothing. I don't think we've seen Chris Paul in a burgundy and gold jersey on a field since the preseason. Even though he is a true right guard, he has the most experience at right guard out of any other option that we have other than moving Andrew Wiley from right tackle to right guard. And between Michael Dieter, Trent Scott, and Chris Paul is the most natural fit for right guard, but at the same time, he hasn't played at all. If he has played, it hasn't been much at all this year. So he will be going in with crazy rust to shake off going into that game. So I don't like this option at all, whether it's Michael Dieter or Chris Paul. If it's up to me, give me options 1 or 2. And I'm a little nervous about option 1, but at the same time, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because Trent Scott looked really good against the Lions. But I do want to re-emphasize that the Lions defensive line, especially without Aiden Hutchinson, is nowhere near the same level as the Eagles defensive line. So can Trent Scott hold up against Jalen Carter and those boys? That's a big question there. Maybe you go out there with option 1. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let Trent Scott start at right guard. If for some reason anything goes crazy haywire and he's not able to do anything and our offensive line is getting obliterated because of Trent Scott starting the right guard, then maybe you adjust mid-game, move Andrew Wally to right guard and move Kenneth Lucas at right tackle. But I think at the very least you start with the offensive line that you had against the Detroit Lions after Cosme got out, because again, I'm gonna keep saying it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man. But also, we can't forget that we put up 36 points on the boys the last time we played them, and I honestly feel like we are a way better team since then. Even without Samuel Cosme, I feel like overall we are a way better team both offensively and defensively. So I'm going into this game with full confidence that I'm not too worried about our O-line situation. I'm not going to sit here and act like losing Cosme is not a big loss, but I still don't see how we're the underdogs going into this game, especially since, first of all, we have Jaden Daniels at quarterback. And it's literally as simple as that. He did Jalen Carter dirty the last time we played the Eagles. On that game-winning drive, Jalen Carter came through the O-line completely free off of like a stun or something. And then Jaden Daniels completely juked him out of his socks to pick up a first down. Like, Jalen Carter had no chance of tackling Jaden Daniels in the open field. And then on top of that, secondly, the Eagles have their own injury problems that are probably even worse than ours right now. Because as of today, quarterback Jalen Hurts and cornerback Quinn Mitchell, remember, they both suffered injuries and could potentially be in danger of missing the NFC Championship after getting hurt in their previous matchup against the Los Angeles Rams. Hurts was rolled on in the third quarter and was seen limping with a very noticeable limp, and he exited the game, but he ended up coming back in at a certain point. But then Quinn Mitchell, on the other hand, suffered a shoulder injury during a tackle and never returned. And without Quinn Mitchell, ooh boy, and then Jalen Hurts, I mean, we already question his ability to throw the ball. If he's hurt with a serious knee injury and he's not as mobile as he usually is, that boy is a sitting duck, especially with how good this defensive line is playing right now. They're playing their best football in these playoffs compared to any previous week of the regular season. And so coming into this game, I'm very optimistic about what this team can do, especially against the Eagles team that is this banged up. Now, head coach of the Eagles, Nick Sirianni, did give an injury update on both of these guys, and he basically said to reporters, which was reported by Ian Rappaport for everybody to see, that both Hurts and Mitchell would be a part of the team's walkthroughs, but it's not a guarantee that they'll both play on Sunday, and we'll see what happens with their practice updates. I'll update y'all probably tomorrow what happens later on this evening, because so far they haven't given us an update, but I don't know, it's not looking too good. Even if Jalen Hurts can play, he'll be hurt, and Jalen Hurts not mobile, again, like I said, sitting duck. And then Quinn Mitchell seems like he's more than likely not going to play. But if he somehow does, I don't think he's in any shape to try to cover Terry McLaurin or De'Ami Brown the way that they've been playing lately. So Eagles, I know we have an injury to our starting right guard position, but I think their situation is worse than ours. Now, before we dive into our injury situation with our Wednesday's injury update, injury report from January 22nd, y'all already know, man, this show is provided by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. If you're looking for a new sports book, it should be BetUS for sure. First of all, they have the fastest payouts in the industry, and I know y'all want y'all money fast because I know I do. And then also right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next two deposits for up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YOUTUBE150. And they have a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process too, so it's really like, why not? Now let's dive into some bets that we can get into directly through their website. And why not get into this Eagles versus Commanders matchup, man? They gotta, if they want to go to the Super Bowl, they got to go through us. And again, I don't see why we're underdogs. Right now, if you're taking a look at the betting lines, looking at the money line specifically, we have plus 235 odds to win this game, which means we are underdogs. People are not expecting us to win this game. And if you wanted to bet on that, I'm super confident. Like, I still don't exactly see how we're the I know they won the division. I know they're the home team. But you can't look at these past few weeks and think that the Commanders are not the better team right now. Kirk Benkert even did a full breakdown as to why the Eagles fans should be worried about this matchup. And it's all about the Eagles side because Jalen Hurts does not look confident this past week. He did a whole Twitter thread literally breaking down, showing you exact clips of film of why the Eagles are actually trending downward right now to where they're playing worse than they have the past few weeks. Like they picked the worst time to be playing worse, and the Commanders picked the best time to be playing their best football right now. So again, at plus 235, if you were to put $100 on this game, you would win $235 if the Commanders were to win this game. Remember, we start playing at 3 p.m. So if we end up winning, you already find out if you won or not by like 7 or 8 p.m. So again, I'm going into this game fully confident that we're going to win this. I mean, everybody, the whole narrative going into that Detroit Lions game is that they're the best team in the NFC, arguably the best team in the NFL. We're going to get whooped by them. Now suddenly we beat the supposed best team in the NFC, at the very least #1 seed. We beat them, and now suddenly we're somehow underdogs to the Eagles as well. People just keep moving the goalposts again. I'm going into this game fully confident. Again, you put $100 down, you're going to win $235 if we beat the Eagles. But y'all already know, man, I'm always going to scream at y'all to please gamble responsibly. If you don't do nothing else, please make sure you gamble responsibly. And of course, before we move on, again, right now, BetUS is offering you a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and a 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits for up to $2,000 with code YOUTUBE150. Now, let's get back to this video. And as you can see on the screen right now for Wednesday's injury report. Now, granted, Wednesday is always the most ambiguous day. We don't exactly know what to really take from anything. Because first of all, a lot of these guys are resting. Like Zach Ertz, Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler, all rest. And then you even have Deron Payne and Bobby Wagner who didn't participate, but I'm pretty sure they're good to go. There haven't been any updates. There haven't been any setbacks to the injuries, and both of those guys played fully in the previous game against the Detroit Lions, so I'm expecting them to be full participants and play in this upcoming game against the Eagles, no matter what their Thursday and Friday injury reports look like as well. I'm pretty sure by the time we see the game by Friday on that section, it's going to say full go, no questionable, no out, no doubtful, no anything. Samuel Cosmi is honestly our only real injury with the knee situation, and I'm pretty sure we're just going to end up putting him on the injury reserve regardless. So I'm not even sure why he's on the injury report, but everything else, I think we're good to go. I thought it was interesting that the defensive end Javonte Jean-Baptiste with the shoulder injury is suddenly back. We haven't seen him play in a long time, and the last time we saw him, he was trending upwards. He started to explode. I think it was against the Cincinnati Bengals where he started to really flash, and then he's been pretty much hurt since then. Him coming back, hey man, you never know, for a Super Bowl, that could be big to add him part of the rotation. I don't necessarily see him playing against the Eagles, and even if he does, he may not play a lot. But hey, a potential Super Bowl against the Chiefs or the Bills, don't forget that 7th round rookie Javonte Jean-Baptiste got something to him. And then wide receiver Olamide Zaccheaus is dealing with a hip injury, limited, but I'm pretty sure he'll be good to go. And then everybody else is a full. John Bates, Tyler Biotish, Brandon Coleman, Dominique Hampton, Frankie Louvu, Jeremy McNichols, and Ben Sinnott are all full good to go. Nothing to worry about there. So I think, again, outside of Samuel Cosmi, this team is mostly healthy, and if anything, we're even getting additional guys back, like Javonte Jean-Baptiste, who we haven't seen in a long time, finally coming back as well. So let's get it, man. Again, outside of Samuel Cosmi, it looks like we should be good to go. Also, while they were practicing in the bubble today, like you can see in the background, they were practicing with the song Fly Eagles Fly in the background. They are trying to get motivated. They're trying to get used to the environment that they're about to go into. I am excited. Also, shouts out to Scott Abraham for pointing out the fact that there was an absurd amount of media here for the Commanders practice. He said there were 12 video cameras, and there's typically only about 6. So, people from other media outlets are storming in and trying to get a hold. I mean, even in our interviews after practice, there's just a lot more microphones, a lot more media members, beat writers, and things like that are not normally there. It's people even outside of the Commanders beat writers and media members there now, because everybody's so intrigued with this upcoming NFC conference game and your potential NFC representatives for the Super Bowl, man. And out of the way, you're gonna see some clips of Jaden Daniels just enjoying himself in practice while we talk about these things. But Frankie Louvu talked about Saquon Barkley, and this is the first of many players talking about this upcoming matchup against the Eagles, and they all seem to have the same exact mentality. It's not only just the mentality that I like, but I like the fact that everybody's on the exact same page. You can tell that Dan Quinn has everybody basically one mind, one soul with this whole thing. We're all thinking the exact same thing. We're all feeling the exact same way going into this game. We're all motivated by the exact same list of priorities, man. So Frankie Louvu was asked about Saquon Barkley. He said he's one of the best to ever play the position, but every game we play is going to be a dogfight. We run and we hit. I love that mentality. Then you had Deron Payne. He said, quote, "We've been the underdogs all year. We know it's going to be a dogfight. Then we might come out on top." Unquote. Hey man, everybody has the same mentality of underdog, or yeah, the Eagles players, that they nice and all, but they gonna have to go through us. It's gonna be a dogfight. They gonna have to earn this type of thing. I love that mentality. Also, Terry McLaurin, he channeled his inner Kobe Bryant when he said, quote, "We're not really celebrating or reminiscing because the job's not done yet. I mean, you can celebrate immediately after the Lions win, but it's immediate focus to our next opponent. The job is not done until we come back with that Super Bowl trophy." I love that. Also, Terry McLaurin said during on Dan Quinn's first meeting with the entire team, the first time Dan Quinn ever met with the players. He said, quote, "If you're a dog A-word competitor, this is the place for you," unquote. And Terry McLaurin said that he, quote, "I sat up in my seat and smiled. That's what I've been itching for," unquote. And Terry McLaurin is just so happy to finally have a competent coaching staff and roster around him. I'm so happy for him just by himself. Also, Jalen Daniels talked about the possibility to becoming the first rookie quarterback to start in the Super Bowl. He said, quote, "Man, I'm not even thinking that far. It would obviously be a blessing, but I'm just focused on how I can be better day by day," unquote. He's unfazed even to the media. You know, that's typically one of those things where you try to clickbait, get a headline out of a quarterback, out of a player, just in the NFL, period. And Jalen Daniels just always seems just completely unfazed and unbothered, just deflects and counters anything that anybody tries to clickbait him with. It's crazy, man. That man, I mean, he's straight to business. And you see sometimes his personality comes out when he's around his guys. But when it comes to being in front of the media, I mean, it's super humble. It's super giving God all of the credit for everything. Like, he is like the perfect face of a franchise, man. Completely unfazed. You can't even clickbait him as a rookie from the media members to try to get a catchy headline or anything. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, and still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for pulling up and supporting this video. If you made it this far in the video, I salute you. Also, the answer to January 22nd's trivia question is, of course, Terry McLaurin. Every time they do a question from like 2022, I mean, I just feel like it's too easy, man. Hopefully, as we get later in the calendar, maybe when we get to like April or something, they'll start to ask more difficult ones. But these 2022 ones, I mean, with 77 catches, who was the leading receiver for the Commanders in 2022? It can't be anybody but Terry McLaurin. But either way, I really appreciate y'all, man. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. I mean, of course, Dan Quinn's mentality, and if that has you ready to run through a wall and all fired up and ready for these Eagles. Also, let me know how you feel about the offensive line situation. Which strategy do you think we should go with? Which option? Also, let me know how you feel about the Eagles and how banged up they are with Jalen Hurts and Quinn Mitchell both looking pretty banged up right now. Also, let me know how you feel about our injury situation and how you feel about the mentality that these players have going into this game that I gave y'all towards the end of the video. And again, as always, I really appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all leave this video without leaving a like. Do not leave this video without leaving a like. And also remember that this video was sponsored by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And if you don't do nothing else, please make sure you gamble responsibly. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.